No, it's alright, just keep going over.
No? Okay. This is my presentation for my project. Yeah, can you click next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so basic idea of the film is that there's this man who's being interrogated in sort of pretty 70s style police interrogation room, and the reason he's there is because he's killed this child, this teenage child, in self-defense, and the film is basically about both the characters and the audience sort of questioning whether that's a good reason to, not good reason, but whether that's morally okay for him to kill this kid, even if it was self-defense. And again, that's basically what the film's about. It's just about all these questions people know about. Most of the film is set in the interrogation room. Next slide, please. And then that brings on the risks. I haven't got a full script yet, so I don't know whether a lot of it will stay how it is in my head or it will change. But for now, the majority of the film is set in the interrogation room. The risks with that it could get dull if the dialogue isn't that interesting. If basically things don't happen, it's just set in one room, it's just two people talking, it's going to get dull. Possibly to see if getting a genre in that, I basically mean that in some films they start off in one thing, like so say for instance this could start off as like a sort of crime thing, but then it could go and morph into some sort of thriller, then into some sort of soap opera type drama, and I don't want that to happen. I want to keep one genre and just stick at it, otherwise it's going to get too complicated, especially in the amount of time we've got to show this in about 5 or 10 minutes, which again is another complication in that the plot is, there's a risk of the plot being too complex to show, to get across in a good way in 10 minutes. Yeah, pros and cons. Those are the cons, I guess. Speaks for itself, really. I don't know whether this has been done before. I don't think it has in this exact context. If it has, then that point doesn't really stand very well. But I think it's quite an original idea. And then if done well, it could be intriguing. But then, like I said, there's a nice balance. There's a risk of it being dull, but then it could also be really good. Okay, first of all, the practicality of the set. I'm planning to film it in the dark room, so that's quite easy to get into, quite easy to get hold of. Hopefully wouldn't run into any big complications in terms of actually being in there for a few hours. Other sets, as far as I know, again, because I haven't got the idea completely sort of put out in my head, but the only other set that I've got in my head is some sort of back alley, which I mean there's plenty of those around Kendal, plenty of them where I live, so we can get away with filming there. No one's going to have any problem with that. Props, again, there aren't many. So far, all the props I've got in my head is the gun and a sort of file with papers, so fairly easy to get hold of, even the gun. Actors, there are only 2 or 3 in the whole film, so again, we won't be sort of overburdening myself on getting tons and tons of people, and then in that sense we won't have to run into complications with schedules and timings, blah blah blah. Costumes, the main character, the protagonist slash antagonist, just wearing some casual clothes, so that's something that everyone owns. That pretty much goes for the costumes for all the characters there. We just need a suit, casual clothing, a hoodie, so we won't have to spend any money. It's someone will own, one of these things. This is the only thing that is risky, is that the actual scene of this guy killing the teenager. If we're doing it in an alley, it's not such a public place as in the middle of town in broad daylight, but it is still out in the open. And there's a gun involved, so with that we'd have to be really careful. We'd have to make sure we did it somewhere that maybe behind, someone's house that no one's going to come along, because even if it's a prop, and say a policeman comes along and you've got a fake gun, you're going to get down to the police station. So that's the only thing that is really a big risk with this film.
Okay. Is that your last slide?
No.
No, sorry.
It's quite a few more.
Quite a few
Sorry
more.
if you get bored. Okay, I've pretty much gone through this already, but I'll just briefly skim over it again. The dark room, easy to get into, easy to get hold of. It's usually empty. We can get lights in and out of there pretty easily, and there are actually light sources in there that we can use if needs be. And we don't have to travel miles and miles to get there. It's literally just down the corridor. So, yeah, speak for itself.
Cool.
Budget, again, I've gone over the costumes, everyone will own all the things we need. Props, I already own a couple of prop guns, so that wouldn't be an issue. The only other things I could think of would be just you sort of things you see around the police station. But again, we could get those from any sort of WH Smith's kind of store, so 10 to 20 quid. Sets, nothing because it's down there. Cast and crew, assuming my friends don't want to be paid, because I'm not going to pay them, so that's tough anyway. And equipment, we get again all the cameras, the lighting, everything that we need. Either I own, my friends own, or we've got a college and we can get without any money. Okay, so finally the script. First draft, only 1.5 pages, so not much. But I'm still developing it, so I'm going to keep updating this project with large versions of the script. Next slide, I think goes the actual pages, so you can read them if you want or if not.
Maybe really
This is an example of the interrogation you see that counterterrorism going for.
Is the best solution.
That's right. What that principal told me is that the person known to have been at your parents' house this morning, it was you.
I don't see how it's possible to arrive at that conclusion.
Well, there was no evidence of an intruder.
But absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
I know I'm making a leap. It's a little leap, though. It's more of a hop.
Is this where you asked me if I hated my parents?
It is about that time, yeah.
Did they make me a freak? Yes. Did I hate them? Absolutely. Did I kill them?
Can you prove that?
I can't prove a negative. Can't be done.
Innocence is a negative. It's the absence of guilt.
Meaning the burden of proof is entirely yours. If you think I did this, then you need to demonstrate how and
No,
why.
no. I won't be able to do that.
Well, you can certainly try.
Because there is nothing. You don't interact with the things we know in the way that we expect. Your presence, your accents can only be inferred by a certain absence.
Is that a compliment?
Absolutely.
Are you trying to beguile me?
No, I wouldn't be so foolish. But I will tell you this, Alice, you can revel in your brilliance for as long as you like, but people slip up. Happens time and time again.
Well, that's just faulty logic postulated on imperfect data collection. What if you only catch people who make mistakes? That would skew the figures, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Criminals aren't as smart as they think they are.
Oh, that was getting monotonous. Someone is brilliant.
Okay, so that was the scene from BBC's Luther. That's the sort of the tone and the theme I'm trying to go for with the majority of the film set in the interrogation room. Yeah, so hopefully I can. It's going to be hard to replicate that because obviously that was written by a lot more people and a lot of things done by professionals. But hopefully I can replicate that in some way that's close to the object I want. And lastly, any questions?
Okay, I think we have something. First thing, just the practicality, the gun issue.
Yeah.
So I made a short film a few years ago with a violent scene in an alley. It was a budget short, so no money. But if you do shoot a scene in an alley, you know where it is, whether it's residential or not, you're going to have to inform the police what you're doing, the date, the time. And I suggest if it's a residential area, you somehow contact any houses overlooking the alley,
Yeah.
drop a letter through the letterbox and explain what's happening.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've done films in the past in which we've used several prop guns. We haven't told the police, but we have been around. We've always done it in the neighbourhood that I live. So, and we've always been around the houses and all my neighbours and just told them, if you see us with the gun, or if you hear any, loud bangs, that don't raise.
Yeah. Normally, it's okay just to inform the residents of the area, because if somebody looks out the window and they're screaming or shouting and they see somebody flashing a gun, they're going to call the police.
Yeah.
But it's always wise just to inform the police, just in case an old lady rings up, because they will stop you from filming.
Yeah, sure.
And they'll probably confiscate your
Yeah.
props as well. That's just a practicality. Just inform people who need to know.
Yeah.
Or do it somewhere where there's nobody about. If you can find a corner of an industrial estate or something where there's nobody about.
Yeah.
That could work. So you've clearly identified quite a lot of challenges in terms of, location and dressing and props and all that.
Yeah.
But one thing that's very important, obviously, is your script and your cast.
Yes.
Everything else kind of pales into significance, really, because they are just practical issues. So you didn't seem very confident about whether it was original, whether it was going to be engaging, and whether it would sustain in one room for any particular length of time.
Yeah.
Which worries me if you have those concerns.
I mean,
it's your job to make sure that it does the opposite of that.
Yeah, sure.
That it sustains, is engaging, and is a strong enough story to work within the constraint. Because a short film set in one room can work if the material, the characters, and the performances are strong enough, and of course the directorial style.
Yeah, sure.
So, which is your challenge. So my question was, where and how do you cast your envisaged casting for this film? Are they going to be professional actors, local, Amdram? How do you do that?
I mean, my idea for ideally, I'd like to get some of the drama students involved with it, because we've done that in a short film we did last year, and they were really good. And the only issue with that is that they are sometimes notoriously hard to get hold of. So hopefully that won't be an issue, but those are the people that I ideally like, because they're really good.
So students who are here studying are notoriously hard to get hold of?
Yes.
Really?
If not,
Why is that?
they just
Too busy?
sometimes they're busy. Sometimes two of them will be free, then the other two won't be at the same time.
I mean, you can't book them for you. I mean, surely it's in their benefit to appear in a short film.
Well, you think so? I mean, that's not in my area. It's past Dom or Hillary, who runs the drama students.
Right,
I'm not too sure about
that's
that.
interesting.
I think if you made it very clear to them that it's going to be a positive thing for them in terms of portfolio and things like that, then hopefully you got to go in there and be really
Assertive bit in a nice way.
assertive and direct with them.
Yeah.
And make sure they know that this is of benefit,
Sure.
so they can actually definitely be there when they say, because they
Yeah.
are a bit like moths around light bulbs, and they will just buzz off somewhere and get interested in something else. So one question that I was thinking is, well, for a start actually, so what do you need to, so that you relax and do have faith in your idea? What do you need to do now to give you enough faith in this?
Have a finished script. Really. I mean, that's the only reason I said I wasn't, 100% sure if this would work, is just because without the scripts, I don't, without a finished script that I'm really happy with, I'm not sure that it will work. I think once I have that, once I've got all the ideas completely solidified in my head, I'll be sure that it will work. I mean, I'm fairly confident that I can make it work, but it's just a matter of will it or won't it.
I think you need to forget about everything apart from your story and the script and the characters.
Yeah.
Forget about everything. Forget about the location, forget about everything. Because until you have a story, even if it's just in your head, And I wouldn't write a screenplay, I wouldn't write a script until you have your story formulated
Okay.
in notes, in ideas, until you know when you run that story, that film through your head, that it engages you and excites you. And if it doesn't engage you and excite you, and if you can't stand up and say, yeah, I really think this is an interesting film that people will respond to, then you need to start again.
Yeah, sure.
Because a simple story, well told, will make a good film, will make a good story.
Yeah.
But if the story isn't engaging, isn't original in your own mind, if there's any doubt at all, then it means it isn't.
Mm.
And you need to rethink. So you really need to focus on the story you're trying to tell and how you're going to tell it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and get that down, and just keep working on that. I don't know what your deadlines are, but just keep working on that every hour you can.
Yeah.
Until you say, yeah, this excites me, I want to spend my time making this.
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, it's not worth it.
No.
You don't want to be disappointed with your own project.
No, and if also I've heard directors say that if the director's not enthusiastic about the thing, then the cast and crew won't be at all. So no, yeah, that's
Because I mean, the time constraints for you are probably quite short. You know,
Yeah, we've got
probably
lots
going to
and
be shooting in the spring. I don't know, and you know, I don't know how much time you've given yourself or how it works with the term and everything, but you know, you're going to put everything into it. You have to really care and be passionate about it, and you have to, when you read your screenplay, you have to go, when you get to the end, you have to go, yeah, I want to make this.
yeah, sure.
And I think I'm going to make this, and people are going to get excited about this.
Mm.
You know, because what the format that you're working in, one location, 2 actors, maybe 3, is very restrictive, but often being restricted like that can free up all sorts of creativity.
Yeah,
So let your mind kind of go crazy with, you know, keep it in one room, keep it in one alley, one room.
yeah,
But how do you make that situation interesting and different? Because we have seen that scene,
yes, yeah,
and I would say that story has been told. I told a similar one myself in a
Okay.
short film, which is about, well, is self-defense, you know, being
Yeah.
self-defense, was
Sure.
it necessary to go that far to kill another human, especially if they're younger or a child or whatever? So those questions have been asked. How do you make your take on it
different.
interesting
Yeah.
and different? Because yes, shooting a story like that in one room is a challenge.
Yeah,
It's a real challenge.
One question I had was, do you need that scene, the actual murder scene? Because if you're shooting this in one location, it's an interrogation scene. Is it necessary to bring in that other element, or should you just have faith that you can make this film an interrogation scene? And
I think again without a finished, complete idea in my head and again a completed script, I'm not too sure. I mean, I had sort of 2 ideas. One, that it would just be purely in the interrogation room, there'd be nothing else, or that there'd be some sort of flashbacks of the protagonist to this scene in the alley. So again, it's all dependent on really the finished script.
Yeah. Without listening to the story, but you try and think of a way of making that genre piece, which is a crime has been committed, woman is interviewed by a detective about what happened.
Yeah.
How do you make that different and interesting? How do you make it surprising? How do you pay it off at the end? You know, I mean, could it be, for example, I mean, I won't go on for very long. Could it be, for example, that you use the format of the same person being interviewed, but several different times throughout the day? You know, they take a break and they walk out.
Yeah, sure.
But each time the detective comes back, the story is slightly different.
Okay.
And people go, well, why? But it's not, he said that happened, and now he said something else has happened.
Yeah.
And because, and maybe it's about perception, about memory, and about what actually happened and what people think they happened and what they saw,
Yeah.
you know? and people will say that, is that people, when a crime occurs, that they can make mistakes about what actually occurred.
Yeah.
So think about how you can structure your story, format it in 5 minutes to use that, maybe use that idea where each time you come back, because you need to keep that 5 minutes or whatever it is, and I'll keep it as short as you can for you, very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's got stages to it. That isn't just an interview where at the end they say, oh, whether you can go now or no, you're under arrest for manslaughter.
Yeah.
There needs to be something else.
And there's another dimension there because it means that you automatically wonder what's going on for them in between the interrogation scenes. Because if they're coming back with a different story, a different point of view, then there's some imagination there of like, oh, okay, so what was happening outside of this context?
Yeah.
And although it's a short film, short films need a twist in the tail.
Yeah.
As in the tale, as in the story. They need something at the end where you go, oh, what?
Yeah.
You know, a little bit like the short film I showed you, the 2 guys in the wood having a chat, this thing comes flying over, and then you suddenly realise you're in a different kind of world. You need something like that at the end. You need to pay off your story. For example, if you are using the idea, and you can have it, it's free, that each time they come back, and maybe there's 3 separate interviews throughout the day, and you shoot first part, the first beginning is the first interview, the second one, and the second interview, the third one, and each time they're different. But maybe what happened in the violence and the confusion is maybe you know, something that this guy who's being interviewed had forgotten or hadn't quite, you know.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's lying.
Mm.
But you need to make it interesting. You need to,
Yeah, sure.
because it is about that character and the story that he's telling.
Mm.
You know, it isn't about being in a room and trying to make that. You know, because if your script and character and story are airtight, it doesn't matter that you're in a little room with 2 people sitting at a table. So you've got to think, work really hard on the story and the character and the structure and engaging the audience with weaving that story in a surprising way. Forget about everything else until you've got that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
Thanks.
Nice one. Great. Perfect. Not perfect. Very good.
Oh, thanks.